That's right. Welcome to the side of the ring because it's time for some ringside rumors, folks. Okay, three top rumors as always. Without further ado, we're just gonna jump straight into it. Our first top rumor: it's not as bad when he's there in person, but Fightful Select reports Vince McMahon is still calling in changes for WWE shows. These often come in later and quote with heavy alterations. So I'm reading this right, and when I read this, it makes me think like, oh, he's changing matches, or, you know, he's trying to like get somebody over or something like that. But like, I don't know, man. I mean, I missed like maybe like a couple snippets of Raw, but that was because like, you know, I went to the bathroom and then I was like making dinner and stuff like that. So like, I don't know, from the stuff that I saw, like it wasn't really like that bad. I mean, I guess if you want to be pedantic, you could. I know Indus Sure like did a thing, but I'm sure that was just like, you know, a squash match. And if you told me that was Vince, then like I'd be like, all right, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Other than that, I mean, the Jordan Devlin, JD McDonough, and Dolph Ziggler thing, like if you told me that was Vince McMahon, I'd be like, okay, yeah, sure. But like, other than that, man, honestly, like they gave Shinsuke a spot in the Money in the Bank ladder match. They gave Ricochet a spot in the Money in the Bank ladder match. Imperium and Alpha Academy had like a really nice match. So like, I don't know, man. I mean, if you're telling me that like Vince is running around and he's making all these changes, I'm having a hard time seeing them. So at the end of the day, you know, I haven't really noticed anything, and hopefully I won't notice anything anytime soon. Our next top rumor: while MJF came out for Double or Nothing banged up and wore a cast at the media scrum, PW Insider heard, quote, the belief is that he's okay and didn't break anything. The site says the AEW World Champ isn't expected to miss any time. Insider sources also tell them it's believed Jade Cargill will be taking some time off from AEW. She remains under contract, and Chris Statlander's TBS title win was planned long in advance. So I'm glad that MJF's okay. I didn't see the media. I don't watch the media scrum. I'm not going to lie to you, man. I mean, you watch the media scrum and like maybe one or two things happen. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not doing that thing where like, you know how like Marvel has like the thing like, oh, you watch the movie at the end of the... I'm not doing that with like every single movie on the off chance that there might be something at the end of it. Okay, like I'm not doing all that. So MJF came out with a bandage. There's two things that I'm taking away from this. One, he was hurt in that moment and like everything was like really sore and like throbbing and stuff. So he did put the bandages on, you know, just to feel a little bit better. Or two, he was just hamming up, you know, the match, which was really good, by the way. It was really, really good. Like, man, MJF is absolutely fantastic. So I am glad to know that he is actually okay and everything actually is fine. Jade Cargill. Now, Jade Cargill. I mean, hats off, right? I'm not taking my hat off. Okay, I tip my hat to Jade Cargill, man. She has definitely been through a lot, you know, not necessarily in a bad way, but she's definitely come a long way. She started out a little bit green, you know, she was in a tag match with Shaq, and then they just started giving her a winning streak, and then they gave her the championship, and then she was on an even longer winning streak, and then they gave her Smart Mark Sterling. And then did Smart Mark come before or after the baddies? Because then she got the baddies, she had like her big group, and then one by one they were just getting like picked off, you know. And then she had her baddies section, and then that kind of like fizzled out, you know what I mean? I do remember, like, I don't know how long ago, but I do remember way back when I heard rumblings of them saying like, yeah, when Chris Statlander comes back, she's gonna take the title from Jade Cargill, like that's gonna be the one who beats her streak and everything like that. So I was like, so when I saw Chris Statlander come back, I feel like for me it was like slowly dawning on me like, oh, okay, you know. I think a couple people in the audience kind of like gathered it a little bit faster than I did, but once she got in the ring, so she was like in the ring, and then she was like anytime, anywhere, and then Chris Statlander came in, and then the bell rang, and I was like, oh, you mean like right now, you know? And then she lost the title. Listen, I mean, she definitely put more than enough work in, you know what I mean? So she deserves this time off and everything like that. So I'm curious to see how long she's gonna take the time off. Probably gonna be for a couple months, you know, just rest, you know, that sort of thing. Maybe come back with a different character. It's hard to say at this point. So at this point in time, you know, only time will tell, and we'll have to wait and see. Our final top rumor regarding a roster split. Fightful's AEW sources told them wrestlers weren't given much in the way of specifics over Double or Nothing weekend, but talent were told that, quote, Collision may start as a soft brand split, then develop into a harder one. I don't necessarily know why you need to do that. I feel like, you can either have the light switch on or off. You don't have to have that weird thing where the light switch is like sitting in the middle. I've done that a couple times, and as you can plainly tell, it doesn't really make a gigantic difference because either way, the light is either going to be on or off, So I don't necessarily understand why we're starting out with a soft brand split and then slowly over time, like cement, it's like getting harder, that doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense to me specifically. I don't really understand that 100%, but I'm not Tony. I also don't understand why Tony isn't necessarily telling anybody anything. That doesn't make any sense to me as well. I don't get this Collision thing. I don't. It started out as a little bit like, ooh, what is this? And then, well, no, for me, it started out as, this is just because nobody likes CM Punk. That's pretty much it. And then, that's pretty much what it's been the entire time. And I'm pretty sure now it is growing. I don't know why my nose is so itchy. Somebody help. I don't know why it's growing. It's just like growing more and more into that of like, oh, I don't like CM Punk. So, we're just going to keep that going. Okay, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but I don't necessarily know why he's just like, yeah, I'm not telling anybody anything. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, there's not really much else I can say about that. I really talked enough about Collision and CM Punk and the roster split and all that sort of stuff. So at this point, man, I'm just waiting to see what happens. Moving over to our minor rumors, our first minor rumor, Jamie Hayter is dealing with a legitimate back issue, per Insider. She also received a lot of praise backstage for, quote, gutting through the injury to drop the AEW Women's Championship to Toni Storm. The win was very abrupt, at least for me. Once the ref counted there, I was like, oh, okay, that's it. I'm really happy. I'm fine. I'm so glad that finally these guys have like something going on instead of just running around and like haphazardly spraying, green mist on everybody and it like barely showing up. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that there's like actually something going on now, because before all they really had was a story with Ruby Riott of like, oh, will she join them and how's she gonna, deal with these guys because they're arguing and it's her friends and all that sort of stuff. And that was like the last thing that they really like got, embroiled in. So, I'm glad to know that now they actually have like, something to like run around with, you know what I mean? So not to like take any, significance away from the championship. If anything, that's what I'm talking about. The championship is incredibly significant, and these guys have not been doing anything. So I'm glad that, they actually have something. Maybe we're going to get like a, hey, it's my turn to hold the belt. I don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see. Our next minor rumor, some NXT talents wrapped up at Battleground, and we should, quote, expect the call-ups to come gradually soon, according to BWE. So I'm trying to like think back. The only people who I can realistically see getting called up is Diamond Mine, but it seems like Ava Rain and Ivy Nile are going to be in a bit of a feud, but I don't necessarily know. I don't think Dragon Lee, I mean, man, can you imagine if they called Dragon Lee up immediately, Noam Dar's got like a faction now, so I don't necessarily think he's getting called up anytime soon. It seems like Braun is probably going to get called up because Carmelo, that's it, that's your lot with him and Carmelo. That seems to be pretty much it. So it seems like he potentially might show up on the main roster at some point. I don't necessarily know when. Maybe Valkyra, but I don't know. That's what I'm saying. So it could really be anybody, Only time will tell, man. We're just going to have to wait and see who they, pluck from the NXT tree, Our final minor rumor, Jordynne Grace is officially a free agent per Fightful. She plans to take some time off to work on non-wrestling projects, but told the site, quote, I'll be back somewhere at some point. Not much to say about this. A wrestler just going out, doing their thing, you know what I'm saying? Farming, opening up a bar, making their own gin, starting a YouTube channel about, cars and car-related things, and then potentially coming back to do like a long, I guess like movie type deal, with more cars and maybe like a car-related pun in there somewhere, with their colleagues. Again, not much really to say. Shout out to Jordynne Grace. Hopefully she completes some of her projects or maybe all of them, depending on the time frame. And, wherever she ends up, hopefully she makes absolute strides when she gets there. What do we talk about? Vince is making calls, and they've got heavy alterations. I have no idea what they are. I've not seen them. If they have been there and I have been like looking at them, I don't know. So I guess that's really a good thing, to be totally honest with you, that I haven't really been noticing them. You know what I mean? So not really much I can say about that. MJF is fine. You know, he didn't break anything, so that's good to hear. Jade Cargill's taking some time off. Makes sense. She definitely deserves it. 60-1 is a definitely formidable streak to be walking around and telling somebody, you know what I mean? And again, like I said, she doesn't have to worry about the streak or the championship or anything like that anymore. So, you know, she's fine. She can breathe a sigh of relief, you know? Hayter's dealing with a back injury. Wow. Hayter is dealing with a back injury, and she received a lot of praise for getting through the injury. Shouts out to her. You don't necessarily need to do that anymore, though. We're not in like the late 90s, but that's just me. You know, surprised that she lost the title, but at the same time, you know, I'm really happy for the Outcasts, and we're just gonna have to see how that, you know, blossoms, if you will. The roster split is going to start soft and then develop into a harder one. Do with that what you will. In more ways than one, you know. Again, talked about it multiple times. There's not really much else I can say other than great, you know. We're just gonna have to wait and see how that turns out, you know. Some NXT talents wrapped up at Battleground, and we should expect call-ups to come. So Diamond Mine, you know, maybe Dragon Lee, you know, if you had to. Who else? Braun Breaker, you know what I mean? Maybe Lyra, you know. It's really hard to say at this point. Those are potentially like the top 4, you know. It could be all 4. It could be like the one of them, you know. So, but they said some NXT talents, plural, so more than likely it's going to be like more than 1, maybe up to 3, but I don't necessarily know. And Jordan Grace is a free agent. Great. Happy for her. Okay. She's free to do whatever the hell she wants, wherever the wind takes her, you know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, we're just going to have to wait and see where she ends up and what she ends up doing, you know? So more power to her. Folks, that's going to do it for this episode. Hopefully everybody has a wonderful tonight and a wonderful tomorrow. As always, big hugs. Big hugs all around.